One of our specials today is talking to our friend Vinnie Iyer from the Sporting News covering the NFL. Vinnie, how are you this morning?
Doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, as NFL training camps open, there's been a lot of player movement. There's been a lot of contract negotiations and struggles. The thing that I have to start with is Jerry Jones, like, do you feel like he's losing his marbles a little bit? Because I sit here and I go, okay, it's one thing to not have the Micah Parsons deal done. That's fine, whatever. They work through it. But to kind of have your quarterback, Dak Prescott, catch a stray in the middle of one of those answers about, it's like, well, we made him the highest quarterback in the league and we barely got to see him play. Like, as you listen to that, what is going through your mind of how he's trying to run this operation?
Yeah, I think he's a guy that's always trying to please his guys, right? I mean, going back to the Emmett Smith deal where they were trying to defend their championship and he was out and they had a tough loss, I believe, at home. And then Emmett held out and then they paid him and then everything was good. So ever since that Emmett Smith issue that they had during their Super Bowl dynasty, they've been always like, we're going to please our guys. We're going to pay them. We're going to always find a way to pay them. And that's been the case. And Jerry Jones has never gone off that. Maybe he still has a memory of that, even though they're not winning Super Bowls right now. I think he just says, I got to get my best players locked up. I got to get them locked up. So, again, I think he's probably tired of the questions because he probably says, look, I've always shown them big time money no matter what. And if they're deemed as a central player, you definitely look at that.
So, Vinny, if it comes down to which offseason has been more turbulent, the Cowboys, I think, are catching up to the Bengals, but would you still give the lead in the race to Cincinnati? Because it feels like they've just done nothing right so far to keep the bad PR from coming in.
Yeah, and it's also the wrong side of the ball. Defensively, where they were terrible last year, they're trying to install a new system with Al Golden. So it's really hard when Trey Hendrickson's not in the mix, Jamar Stewart, two guys that are the same position, the pass rush. So it's just really hard to kind of put all your things together to try to have an improved defense. So unfortunately, it looks like a lot is going to fall on Joe Burrow and the offense. Good news is that they're loaded and they can outscore a lot of teams, but how long is that going to last? I mean, we saw that it wasn't enough to get them in the playoffs last year, and Burrow and Chase had remarkable seasons together. So I don't know. Like, it's tough. Maybe just the scheme will make them a little bit better. Maybe play more complementary football to their offense, but it's tough. I mean, when you don't have two guys that you're counting on, your first round pick and your best pass rusher leading the league in sacks, I mean, that's just a hard thing to recover from when you're trying to establish everything else on the defense.
Yeah, Vinny, with the Bengals there, I'm sitting here thinking, and yeah, they might try and outscore everybody, but it's also hard for me to imagine that Joe Burrow is going to have a better year than he had last year. I mean, maybe even, right? But it's hard to imagine anybody having much better of a year than he had last year. Like, it seems a little bit like fool's gold to run it back, or maybe it's just straight insanity to run it back and say, well, hey, this didn't work last year when we had one of the best quarterbacking seasons maybe of all time. Let's try that again.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is I think that's how Bengals fans are going to feel while they have Joe Burrow because they were so close to winning the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple plays, Aaron Donald doesn't get to him in the Super Bowl, and then all of a sudden Joe Burrow's looked at it in a different way, right up there with Mahomes in terms of having a ring. And I think that's the thing is they believe that really, if you look at his body of work, he can be the guy that challenges Mahomes to be the best quarterback in the league when it comes to winning championships. So I think there's that frustration. It's like, give him a decent defense. It doesn't have to be great. He's going to carry you quite a bit. You give him a top-notch defense, like we've seen Mahomes have in a couple years, it's going to be really hard to stop them. So I think they just want, okay, you got T. Higgins, you got Jamar Chase, you got Joe Burrow, fine. But now you need to get the defense on the other side to just be decent and really take advantage of having these guys.
Vinny, the AFC North, as we mentioned with the Bengals, they've got so much news that's happened in this offseason, whether it's been everything with the draft day scenarios with the Browns or the Steelers adding Aaron Rodgers. Have the Ravens done anything to kind of move their needle down, or do you still see them head and shoulders above the rest of that division?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, but I think the Ravens, I mean, I think they're the most stable team right now. The other teams are all going through transition. Defensive scheme in Cincinnati, quarterback in Pittsburgh, and then Cleveland. Who knows who their starter is going to be? So Baltimore again, really the same question. I get the same questions asked about Baltimore and Buffalo. Just comes to executing the playoffs. There's not much more to say. They just have to win in the playoffs and beat the Chiefs. And that's the biggest thing they need to figure out for those two teams because they've conquered the rest of the stuff.
Vinny, I think, and not just because I'm a fan, but I think the 49ers had a really interesting offseason because obviously last year, everything that could go wrong went wrong for them in terms of injuries. And it seems like that happens about every other year for Kyle Shanahan. And that last year was their, hey, everybody's getting injured year. But then they also had, it's not like all those guys are coming back now. They had a ton of turnover. Some of the guys coming back from injury are going to be there, but they had a ton of turnover, especially on the defensive side of the ball over the last year as well. Where do you where do you land on them between guys coming back from injury, guys they got rid of, and guys they brought in, whether in free agency or the draft? Like, how are you evaluating the 49ers heading into training camp?
Well, I think you just look at Eagles, Commanders, Lions. You start there with the best contenders in the NFC, but then it's kind of wide open after that. Can San Francisco fill that void? Is it going to be the Rams again? Maybe jumping them in that division because of their young defense and their offense. That certainly could be the case. I think the biggest question is how much is Robert Saleh and that influence going to have just in restoring defensive strength. But a lot of questions offensively. Brandon Ayuk sells. You want in his contract. How much is left of Christian McCaffrey? What are you going to get from Brock Purdy with the contract? So there's so many questions there where I think they look more like a shaky division winner versus like one that I'm firm on versus those other teams contending for the Super Bowl.
You mentioned the Commanders there.
Yeah,
and
I was going to ask the same thing.
That's a super interesting one to me to kind of put in the teams you feel like just because it was sort of just it felt almost fluky last year. Not saying they don't have a good roster, not saying Jane Daniels isn't good, but it felt like they came out of nowhere. How confident are you? It seems like pretty confident. Why are you so confident in the fact that they'll be able to replicate what we saw from them last year?
Well, a lot of things haven't changed and have really improved. I mean, they've got a lot of defensive strengths here that have developed, and they got Deebo Samuel. That just adds another weapon to a young quarterback that's on the rise, and I think you'll see more of those complementary players step up for this team. And they got an offensive line that's better too, so everything is just better with the Commanders. And they're saying, "Hey, we got Daniels, we got to take advantage of this."
So as we look over to the AFC. Obviously, Chiefs, Bills, mentioned the Ravens. I would imagine those are your three givens in the AFC. Who's that next group for you there in the AFC of possible contenders?
Yeah, and this one is tougher because you have to dig a little bit deeper. But I think you look at some teams that could have quick turnarounds. I think Jaguars, just because of their offense and zone and some of the things they could do. So that's a team we're going to pay attention to see what that potential is, because we just saw it a few years ago with them. We have to see what the Chargers and Broncos are going to be doing. Following up, are they going to better battle the Chiefs, or are they still going to be kind of stuck scrapping for the wild card? And the Chargers, I think, left a lot to be desired in the playoffs, right? I mean, Justin Herbert's got to prove himself better in those situations. Is Bo Nix going to build on his season and really lead the Broncos? The Broncos, you'd say, right up there with the best defenses in the NFL right now. So can they get enough from their offense to really compete for a championship? And you just go to those coaches that you trust, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh. They're going to put those teams in position to compete every year.
Vinny, we've got kind of a unique setup here at Hurrdat Sports. We've got many different fans of different franchises, especially just the ones that are so far away. So last week we were talking between myself, a Panthers fan, and our resident New York Jets fan as to who may have the better setup for success as a young quarterback, either Bryce Young in Carolina or Justin Fields with the Jets. As you see it entering training camp, do you see one of those two having maybe a better setup that could lead to success and what probably could be a make or break year for both their careers?
Well, I think Justin Fields right now might have the better situation only because he's got Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, and very good offensive coaching staff coming over from Detroit. So I think there's some established stuff there. I think they're still trying to figure out all the weapons, I think, around what you have is Bryce Young. So there's some confidence there. I think Bryce Young might be the better overall quarterback, but Fields is the guy that you're looking at with the better support right now.
So as you're looking at, let's stay in the AFC East there for a second. Where are you on new head coach in New England, Drake May, second year? How do you feel about their progression from year to year?
Yeah, there's going to be a lot we're going to watch for their defense. I think that's the biggest question. They got to sort out the backfield. They got to find receivers. They're transitioning everything back to what they really wanted to do, probably. Plus Bill Belichick with Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels. Maybe this is what they really wanted for the succession plan of Bill Belichick. So kind of the clock starts a little bit over again, even though they have some young players.
Are we going to see Vrabel implement more of what we saw from him at Tennessee, where it's maybe not necessarily the ground and pound with Derrick Henry, but something similar to that where you rely on the defense, you shorten the game? Or is he going to let Drake May become more of that quarterback that a lot of people expect him to become, especially with how well he performed last year?
Well, I don't know if they have the luxury to do that with some of their weapons, right? And Stephon Diggs is coming off a major knee injury. He's aging. They're a bunch of young guys. No, like, true go-to guy. Maybe Hunter Henry is their best reliable target right now that they can count on in this offense. So I would think it's the latter. Like, I think they have to pound the ball. That's why they got Travion Henderson to go with Ramondre Stevenson. I think they pound the ball, try to play better defense, and try to win games that way. But I think if there's a lot of buzz about the Patriots, I would just calm it down a little bit. I think more you'll see that in 2026.
I'm really proud of us. We've gone 12 minutes and haven't brought up Aaron Rodgers yet, really. But it is time. So my normal co-host is a huge Steelers fan. He's trying to talk himself into the Aaron Rodgers signing. What is in your mind, what do you think is the most likely outcome from Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think, look, for him, he has to play within himself and not try to do too much. And I know it's hard to say that. I mean, it's a cliche to say that. But for him, it's very important. Just not act like he's Mr. MVP with a strong arm anymore. The same, he still has a strong arm. I'm not going to take that away. But the ability to carry a team, I think that day is done. So you got a good defense now. You know, Ramsey's there to help what you have up front. Like, you don't need to do a lot. You have a running game that can be pretty good. You have 2 tight end sets that you can run now with Arthur Smith. So just rely on your supporting cast, your coaching, and just play within that. And don't try to be the guy that takes over with the personality or over like Tomlin or anybody on his team. Just play within it and be one of the guys. And I think that's going to be very important for him to succeed where he failed with the Jets.
In that same scenario with Pittsburgh, is Rodgers going to be asked to carry the load like it felt like he was when he was sent to New York? And there was all the media hype that came with it, that he was, very controlling in the locker room. He's bringing in, some of his favorites and types of players and stuff. Will that sentiment somewhat be the same in Pittsburgh when it comes to how the offense runs through him? Or do you think that he will just try to elevate the pieces around him?
Well, I'm just saying this is a key season for him to show that he can be humble, because Mike Tomlin, we know, does not put up with that nonsense in terms of somebody trying to be bigger than the team. We've seen it before. So I just think you'll see Rodgers have to do that if he wants to be successful.
What are you doing with Minnesota? Obviously, they had the really great year last year. Sam Darnold departs, and they are leaning on, it appears, J.J. McCarthy this year to kind of take over that offense with Kevin O'Connell. How do you predict, I guess, what you think that team's going to be when a lot of the same pieces are in place? We like a lot of what they have, but have a total unknown at quarterback.
Yeah, I think you just have to look at this system and trust it, right? I mean, they've got things that have worked out. I mean, between what do you have in Sam Darnold, Kirk Cousins, I mean, the system is just good. And that's why people want to tap into the Rams system. And then you had Brian Flores on the defense. So I think they'll be okay. I mean, there's just so much there in Minnesota, especially if Christian Darrisaw comes back. You got now Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason in the backfield to help the running game. Plenty of weapons. T.J. Hawkinson should be plenty healthy at tight end this year to have a bigger impact. Him and McCarthy were kind of developing something before things broke down, obviously, with the knee last year. So Hawkinson, Addison, Jefferson, the offensive line, the defense. McCarthy doesn't have to do all that much, I don't think, to be successful this year. This, again, another guy that can actually give them a little bit more upside because he has a little bit more athleticism that either Darnold or Cousins could provide in the offense.
Sticking in the NFC North, too, when it comes to the Lions, you had mentioned them as one of the contenders. How quickly do they need to get off and running offensively for people not to worry about the loss of their offensive gurus and some of the pieces that they left from their coaching staff?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the thing is, like, how does this affect Jared Goff? Like, he's been a system guy. When he's in a good system, he's great. When it's a bad system, he usually falls apart. So let's see what happens. The schedule's a lot tougher this year. If you also look at it, you got to play more outdoor, tough road games against better teams. So there could be regression, especially the Vikings are pretty loaded. The Bears, I have a lot of optimism with their defense changing. The Packers are not going to go away. So they have some things they have to sort out with Detroit, especially the brain drain. I mean, we saw that with Philadelphia having a bit of a hiccup until they were able to restore, right, after they lost Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon. They had to have a hiccup, return, get those guys back. I don't think you just lose people the quality of Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, who both become head coaches, and just maintain what you were doing.
Vinny, out of the young quarterbacks, we brought up a couple of them, whether it's Caleb Williams, we talked about Drake May earlier, just talked about J.J. McCarthy. I'll even throw in Justin Fields, who we talked about, Jaden Daniels, who we talked about as well, Bo Nix. Out of those guys, those young quarterbacks, Michael Penix we can throw in there also, who are you betting on to have the best season this year?
Well, I think Daniels, let me take Daniels out of the equation because I think he's going to have another great season. So let's just assume that.
Let's throw C.J. Stroud in there too.
Okay, that's fair. I'm going to say Caleb Williams just because I like the system. I like all the weapons around him at this point. They've got now 2 tight ends they can use. They've got all these receivers there, even without Keenan Allen. So I really like what the Bears are doing, and some of that mojo of the Lions is definitely going to be pushed to Chicago this season. I think defensively you'll also see some transition, maybe not as positive, but still I like Caleb Williams. He's just too talented not to do well in that type of offense. But Ben Johnson is just night and day what they had last year.
Was the Bears hype just a year too far in advance? Obviously, they had plenty of changes that happened over this past offseason and through last season, but the team to watch last year were the Bears. Do you think it's more apt to be able to apply that to them now?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was slowing the roll of the Bears last year because they had a lot of issues, especially with the offensive line and defense. This year they went and invested a lot in the interior offensive line to get Ben Johnson's running game going. That's going to have Caleb Williams. Williams has got more weapons. We'll be going to get Luther Burden and Colston Loveland. I mean, that's a pretty big addition to get those 2 young players. And Roma Dente, I think, has uncapped upside. They have good chemistry from being first-round draft pick. So, and DJ Moore could still have a rebound, be more invested. I just think a lot of people were checking out of the Matt Eberflus era because it just wasn't inspiring. But now Ben Johnson, all the vibes say it's going to rejuvenate these players.
Vinny, I'll get you out of here on this. Out of the players that are kind of holding out, having contract issues, maybe they've reported but they're unhappy, like which one is most crucial that gets their deal done as soon as possible?
Yeah, I think it has to be Trey Hendrickson because the Shamar Stewart thing has changed the game for the Bengals, right? They thought he might be contingency, but he's been a headache right now. So they need to get Hendrickson done, especially if they want to have any decent success with that Al Gold defense.
That's Vinnie Iyer from the Sporting News covering the NFL. Vinny, we appreciate the time. As always, we'll talk again soon.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Vinny.
That's Vinnie Iyer from the Sporting News.
Did you see Tyrann Mathieu retire?
Yeah, Tyrann Mathieu retired. So, okay, this is not really related to Tyrann Mathieu because he played last year.
Is this Honey Badger related?
No. Honey Badger don't care.
People forget. We talked about Burger King commercials yesterday. That was a great YouTube video.
The Honey Badger was.
Yeah.
That was like early viral internet.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if this has always been a thing and I'm just noticing now. We've had like 4 guys in the last month or so officially retire that haven't played in years.
Tyrann Mathieu.
Phillip Rivers officially retired this week.
Good for him.
And then there was one more that hadn't played.
Did Larry Fitzgerald finally announce his retirement?
I'm
I'm still waiting on that. I'm pretty sure I didn't miss that.
I don't think
I'm gonna have to Google that now.
I don't think it was Larry Fitz. But we've had like 3 or is that always something that people have done, or is this a new phenomenon?
This has to be new, right? Because usually you just get at like the end of a season, they're just like, no, I'm good.
Or they're like, hey, it's gonna be my last go, whatever.
Yeah,
like
right.
Aaron Donald, he said, hey, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Right after the season, that made sense. I'm just having a hard time remembering, or trying to figure out why this is happening. I get.
Yeah, Larry Fitzgerald has not officially announced his retirement, and he hasn't played since the 2020 season.
He can still come back.
That's insane.
He can still come back. Phillip Rivers hadn't played since 2020 either. And he officially is retired.
That's crazy.
And
what are we doing?
That's what I mean. I'm like, okay, that's been 5 years. It's been a minute. I don't know. Although Venus Williams did just win a match at 45 years old, so maybe
anything is possible.
Maybe Larry Fitz is waiting for the right opportunity.
You remember that story that Shanahan said when they asked after the NFC Championship loss to the Eagles, "Hey, if you went into the Super Bowl with what quarterbacks you had, what were you going to do?" And they said, We had a plan in place to sign Phillip Rivers.
Yeah.
That, I want to live in that world. That would have been phenomenal. Could you imagine just a 1-week stint? Phillip Rivers, he's like, well, I'm going to need 10 Super Bowl tickets for me and my kids to show up.
I'll have to leave a few of them at home. That's wouldn't that have been the funniest way for Phillip Rivers to win a Super Bowl?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Because I believe he's got the most wins all time, or second most wins all time, 137 behind Marino. 137 career wins without a Super Bowl, second most all time. It's 10th most wins all time, just period.
It's pretty impressive.
Which is great for him.
Yeah.
But that would have been the wildest way for him to win a Super Bowl is just 1 week. He gets prepped for 2 weeks coming up to the Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan's like, let's let it fly, bud.
Yep.
Let's go.
Phillip Rivers was so underrated and so undervalued. Like, he played that AFC Championship game with a torn ACL. He was gritty. He was always performing week in and week out. He was a goofy thrower. He was a great competitor. But, man, he was a part of some really good teams that they just underperformed so hard. I mean, they just couldn't figure it out late.